Hey, what's up, party people? Welcome to a special Hump Day edition of SJU. I've got all my best buds with me. I got Lon, I got Eric, I got Kim. Nice to see y'all, your smiling faces this morning slash evening. Um,
Still morning.
Today we have a few short hours, like 48 hours, until the series finale, or season finale at least, of WandaVision. And boy, is the internet a buzz. There are fan theories upon fan theories upon fan theories. Kind of stoked by Paul Bettany, and then de-stoked by the director Matt Shackman, who told our own Eric Goldman, "I love seeing memes and TikTok videos and theories. They're so creative and wonderful. Of course, some people will be disappointed that certain theories don't end up coming to be true or true in the course of WandaVision." Yeah, there is a danger to speculation and theories, but what do we say to danger? No, not today. We don't give a crap about you. We're going to speculate. We're going to tell you, the viewer, exactly what happens in the WandaVision finale this week. I have my own pet theories. I know you all, you came with some, but we can also respond to some chat ones. Do you guys want to give your theories first, or should we dismantle or agree with what chat has to say?
I guess, should we start with ours?
Okay, go for it, Eric.
Sure.
WandaVision, episode 9. What happens? We open on Wanda. Or Vision.
Ryan just reminded us. I see. Also, by the way, we should say spoiler alert for everything that's happened so far, because I think we're inevitably going to be saying stuff that already happened. But I mean, after last week's episode, which I loved, but I feel like smaller is the way to think here, people. Not to say, and I bet there's going to be at least one, if not two, post-credit scenes that are going to be like, whoa, and that's where we might get our Cumberbatches and stuff like that. But the actual meat of the episode, after last week's episode, I really feel like it has to be like, yes, they have to solve the hex. That has to go away. But my main thing is, I don't see how you have Vision come out of this show and not feel disingenuous, especially after, like Matt Shackman even said, when I spoke to him and other people spoke to him, hey, this show is about grief and about, dealing with stuff. I've seen, people have a lot of theories about, the white Vision, and they could bring him back in some different way. But I feel like she's got to say like a final goodbye to him in this finale. So that's like the main thing I'm thinking at this point, beyond being like, yes, I do want to know a little bit more about what's going on with Agatha. And I am curious if we'll know about who Pietro is, although I think it might be more than of a hint than a here is exactly who he is. But my main thing is I think this might be the final end for Vision. I could also be wrong.
So Vision fully dead is your prediction. Fully dead and loving it.
Not loving it, but fully dead for her.
I mean, I feel like that on some level it would break the show up until this point to have Vision just live on. Like, so much of this show has been about how she can't face but must face this reality that Vision is really gone, that to be like, but never mind, he's back, everybody. Like, it just doesn't feel right. It just feels like that would violate what we've already seen to this point.
Lon, what feels right to you? We open the opening credits, WandaVision. What sitcom are we in?
I think on some level the one thing I think that is a dangling thread, I know there's a few, like who's the engineer, like there's a few of those questions. The one dangling thread I feel like we need to pull through is Dottie. We got a lot of Dottie at first. She seemed like she's definitely a character that there's some additional layer of story or intrigue around her. And then she basically has disappeared from the show in a way that feels deliberate to me. So I feel like that on some level, I don't know what the reveal will be, but I feel like if there is going to be a reveal that there's another player in this story that has had some sort of a agenda or an angle up until this point, I think it's going to have some connection to Dottie. Like perhaps she's the witness, like Wu's mysterious witness who was already in the town that he needed, that first alerted him to what was going on with the hex. I feel like on some level, we're going to see what that connection is, and Dottie has some role to play.
I think that's a little too vague, Lon. I want to hear what character from the comics is Dottie.
Dottie is Namor.
Okay, great.
And she will jump into the sea at the very end.
Write this down. Must credit Lon Harris.
Yeah,
right?
If you rearrange the letters in Dottie and then add NAM.
R. Right there. Come on, man. Well, if it was obvious, it wouldn't be a cool reveal, would it, guys? Come on. I also think if you want one more, I think Hayward, obviously we're getting a tip that he is like villainous, but I feel like he's going to be one of our coming like big bads. Like Sword is going to do the Shield heel turn, and we're going to have to worry about them throughout Phase 4. I think
Sword
that's
Shield
also
heel turn. You love to see it.
Yeah.
Kim, what's your prediction for the last episode?
On the topic of Vision, I think we've got to see a Vision versus Vision fight, in which they, probably both die, and that will be Wanda's opportunity to say goodbye, and deal with her grief. But I do believe in the Mephisto theory. I think he will still be revealed. There have been too many clues for me to accept a no-show from Mephisto. I will feel very cheated. Whether he is Pietro, I'm not sure, but I feel certain that Agatha has been working in league with him, or maybe trying to summon him from her basement. What we saw the week before last, that book, which may or may not be the Darkhold, could have something to play in that. And I think maybe he'll come in, and if he's not the main antagonist of this series, I feel like he might be set up to come into Phase 4 further down the road. Maybe the main antagonist of Phase 4.
Okay, interesting. So none of you have predicted what I think they're setting up, which is setting up Wanda as the big bad of Phase 4. As like, you'd hope that she could overcome her grief, but there's too many forces working against her. I think you got Agatha, you got Hayward. It's obviously up to something. Vision, I think for contract reasons alone, has to die. I think we're going to see, the sequel to the Snap, which is more of a mental snap, and we're going to get the multiverse, the long promised multiverse that the hex will shatter reality in some form or another. Will they use maybe the kids will be? Are the kids real? Are these real kids? What? No. Yes.
This speaks to kind of an issue I've had with the show. They were very, like, right away they introduced us to this concept of nothing in the hex is totally fraudulent. Like everything that's in there exists in some form. She's just re-manipulating it. Yeah. We never formally got to like, oh, that was wrong, ignore that. But I'm assuming at this point that was wrong, ignore that, because we've now established that she seems to have generated Vision from essentially nothing. So I don't know if we're still presuming that literally, physically, everything that's inside the hex is real, just in some twisted or changed format. But if so, that like the kids would have to be.
They dealt with that by Vision not being able to exist outside the hex, though. Like that kind of was your.
They did, but they didn't. But they're purposefully being like a little so we have all of these questions and we can't get more of a grip on. I don't know if it hasn't been totally neat. I don't think.
If Mephisto is involved and it follows the line of the comics, then she will have unwittingly drawn his power to create them, right? And
well, it's a yes or no. It's like her abilities are at this point just she's manifesting matter out of no matter, or her abilities are she's changing things that already exist into other things. I'm fine either way. I just feel like on some level you got to pick one, or these things are never going to really make sense.
Yeah, I mean it's a little unclear, and I think that I think we can sort of predict on some level that the hex and Hayward and stuff like that, like the nefarious plan, the reason why we have to spend so much time on a very generic army base with just a lot of generic guys walking generically around, is that they're trying to create weapons. They're trying to create more like, Avengers or super soldiers, or whether that's for like a full-blown Hydra evil plot, or that's just like what Sword is up to these days. I think they're hinting at that with like Monica Rambeau. It's like, oh, it alters your genetic structure every time you walk in, and it maybe makes you into a superhero. Or trying to create, they're tracking Vision. They're trying to pull Vision out of here and recover this weapon and stuff like that. That this is all, maybe her kids are involved. But, her kids could be the first naturally born with superpowers beings, aka mutants. This could be all part of a master plan to introduce maybe mutant genes into the multiverse or into the Marvel universe. So I think
there was Darcy had that one line that seemed to me to be a wide open door for it, which is like it goes in and it changes your DNA whenever you interact with the hex. It's like like that's a blatantly like we could do mutants now if we want. And I do think I think there's a possibility that the Hex in some ways before it gets destroyed, I agree it's going to go away by the end of the finale, but before it gets destroyed, if it even briefly goes global, that would be a perfect setup for in some future movie to be like, remember when the Hex went all over the world? It created mutants.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think that may happen outside the realm of this show, but it may still happen.
The further we've gotten into the show, the less I felt two things were likely that going in I thought were going to happen, which was Wanda becoming a villain. But also, it's funny, at this point, I guess I'm different from you, Kim, in that I kind of don't want Mephisto now. Like at the beginning of the series, I think I did, but I guess now I just don't know how he doesn't sort of disrupt this storyline. And that's why, I know I've mentioned this on videos we've done on Friday, Roth and I, but it's like, that's why I think if they did do that at this point, I want it saved for like a post-credit reveal, because I don't know how like in the final like 40 to 50 minutes of the show, you kind of bring in another character. Because Agnes Agatha could work for people who don't know the comics as like a, hey, she was there the whole time reveal. Whereas like I'm Mephisto, it just, I think involves too much for this show, but I do think they could do it at the very end. But I do think, I'm glad you mentioned Spencer. I forgot about, yeah, of course. I do think even if she doesn't do it consciously, the whole multiverse breaking thing, I think it's like that will be something caused at the end of this, that whatever magical chaotic thing that happens, she will cause that. And now I'm less convinced that she'll go into Doctor Strange as like a bad guy, because the show's been so sympathetic to her, but I do think it'll be like she caused this thing to happen, inadvertently or not, that is now sort of broken down the barriers between worlds.
That's kind of her thing, like is
Yeah.
inadvertent destruction is kind of Wanda's move these days. So, and I think that if you have a worldwide magical event, there is no way you don't get a post-credit sequence with Wong looking up from his scrolls and saying something pop culture, like something about Beyonce, and then the cape wraps around Benedict Cumberbatch. Like that to the bank. Take that right to the Marvel bank and cash it.
The one thing is, I feel like we're on a journey towards Wanda coming to understand and maybe even control her powers better. That's where I assumed this was going when Agatha reveals, like, you're the Scarlet Witch by saying it out loud at the end of the show. I don't know if I would be surprised if at this point in the journey it decides to go even further into where we've already been with Wanda, which is like she's got all of this crazy power and she kind of doesn't know how to use it or what to do with it. Like, I think that's obviously not Agatha as a mentor, like as a counterpoint, but I don't necessarily think we're going into a journey of her losing even more control. I think we're going to end this at a place of like, okay, now I need to learn how to use this because I have so much world bending, possibly multiverse opening, which I agree with in general. I think obviously that's where we're going. But yeah, I still think she's going to be one of the goodies at the end here.
Well, we're talking out of our ass, but so are you, the audience. There's some really good...
That's what we all do.
My God, I am talking completely out of my ass, guys. I have no idea. I looked up Dottie, and somebody was like, Dottie and her husband, Phil Jones, share names with characters from the Squadron Supreme. And I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know what that is, but I'm in.
Lon, I'll talk to you for hours about the Squadron Supreme.
Well, good, because we might need your help there.
Follow up.
Some fans have some real deep cuts here. Not this one, though. The storyteller writes, I think White Vision will be voiced by James Spader, a.k.a. Ultron. What do you think about that? That'd be a fun voice cameo, at least, no?
I mean, it would be. I don't know if we get it.
I will say you do have to give Feige and Marvel credit. They pick the most divisive, disliked films, and then they base the whole franchise around them. So you have no choice but to go back. Like they did it with Thor: The Dark World and Endgame, and now again, Age of Ultron is like the central movie in this whole thing. Like, did we like James Spader and Ultron? Was that? Is that revisionist history, or did I just
revisionist?
I don't know.
Revisionist?
Oh. I don't know.
What were you saying, Tim?
I would go a different way. I think not having it be Bettany makes some sense, just so we're not connected to that character as was the other one, but I don't know if we need to be Spader.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. Panther writes, I'm thinking the big bad behind it all will be Nightmare or Lilith, the mother of demons. The latter because I still hope they'll adapt the Midnight Suns storyline someday. Eric, can you translate that?
Nightmare is another like big Doctor Strange villain that they could certainly sub in for Mephisto if they wanted.
We think that's the Doctor Strange 2 villain, so to set him up and then right.
And that's the thing is like that they do, you know, they certainly have done that a ton of like mixing and matching and pulling from there's almost never a direct adaptation of these storylines. So it's possible. Midnight Suns, Panther. I think we should wait for Blade to come around. Then you can get to that. Okay. That's kind of a supernatural-esque fighting force within Marvel.
What about a Shuma Gorath? When am I gonna get my tentacle monster? How long do I have to wait?
Are we going straight Lovecraft? Is that what's happening next?
Kim, you tackle that one.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, Spencer. That's the answer. Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Thank goodness. It's about time the great old ones showed up.
This is a fun one I like from Suze Vera writes.
I like this a lot.
Wu takes out Hayward professionally and physically with a business card trick hinting that he might be Gambit. If Wu charges up a business card and flings it at him and then suddenly has a Cajun accent, I will squeal.
I just want to see Randall Park just have to do the accent, start calling everybody Cherie. That's really I'm just in for that.
Kim interviewed Randall Park a few weeks ago, and they talked about in the comics, Randall Park leads a group that I desperately want to see in the MCU called Agents of Atlas. Jimmy Woo leads a group that has like a gorilla and a robot and all sorts of wackiness going on. So I
there was like a viral tweet where a guy is like pitching this show now to Disney Plus, I believe.
Yeah, and Kim didn't Park's he's hoping to get some Agents of Atlas there.
Oh my God, he couldn't have been more enthusiastic. Yes, that is all he has wanted his whole life, I think.
Who doesn't want that? Yeah, who doesn't want that?
So save Gambit for someone else, because let Jimmy be Jimmy.
Agreed.
There's you guys are overproducing. We have so many. Maybe we'll do like quick hit fan theories. We'll try to get through these quickly so we get a bunch of them. Singular Rookhart writes, the two versions of Vision will merge. This will be the MCU's take on the Dark Phoenix saga.
Whoa. Yeah. I do like that if you have a two Visions fighting is Viz versus Viz. It's like it's a really neat way to do the title, but I don't know.
Look, there is the
Viz v Viz.
There is the version of this that ends with like there's hope for the future, which is she has to say goodbye to Vision, but the white Vision sticks around. He has no emotions, so it seems, but you can do a little hint that maybe he does, and maybe one day he can return to being that Vision. But I don't know about in this finale having it be like, I'm back, Wanda. We know he's not in Doctor Strange unless it's a secret, and they announced so long ago she was. So I just feel like she can't have him back in her life at this moment.
Or maybe she can learn to love James Spader's Ultron in the body of Vision.
There you go.
I buy that. And Katie Lou Down writes, this is cute. She had a dream last night that Wanda solved the Vision problem by making a mini hex that follows him around like Elsa did with Olaf in Frozen. I think that is some beautiful synergy, and I support it.
Someone should make a little cartoon of that.
I will say the fact that she's controlling, like she's using magic on like the people at the edge of town that she's not even like witnessing, like she can keep this thing going. Like theoretically she could do that, right?
Yeah, just like a one-man hex for sure.
Yeah, just like she's got this spell that's just constantly running that makes it seem like Vision is there.
Hey, Craig writes, Doctor Strange is no Luke Skywalker. I think that's referring to somebody saying that there's a cameo on the level of Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian. Right. So he says it's got to be Tony. Got to be Tony Stark, who's dead. How's that going to happen?
I think the cameo thing got out of hand for two reasons, which is one, when they talked to Elizabeth Olsen doing interviews where she hadn't seen Mandalorian, so they were trying to explain to her contextually even what happened. And her being like, well, we have a big guest star, which could have been Evan Peters because this was before he even showed up. And that was certainly the kind of internet going crazy moment. And then we were talking about right before we were filming, it's like, and then, we had, why am I blanking on Paul Bettany? I was blanking on his name, him saying that he got to work with someone he's always wanted to work with his whole life, which now a lot of us are like, was he just having some fun there? Because he'll work with himself in the finale. So I kind of feel like we need to lower our expectations on the universe exploding cameo that'll happen. I think Evan Peters was a great moment, and I don't need them to have another moment to like get me freaking out about a guest star as much as that. So I think, I don't know. I don't want to put too many eggs in the Luke Skywalker basket.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I've even let go of my Magneto theory, Eric, because it's not going to happen. I was convinced.
Yeah,
That's
Oh,
a
the
shame.
McKellen would show up,
Yeah.
or
Well,
Fassbender, I guess.
even
Or-
better. Yeah. I was thinking Fassbender,
Yeah.
but
I'm
even
your
better.
father. I'm oddly only 15 years older than you, but we'll work it
Yeah,
out.
I mean,
I
at this
mean-
point, with any of these things, it wouldn't like make practical sense though, because we, like she had a dad. She remembers her dad from
Yeah.
Sokovia. It was not
magic.
Magneto.
So, okay, two things left.
Wow.
One is I just want to say the name Farts McCool. Farts McCool writes, she
Amy.
made the kids in her womb, so they have to be real. So there you go. He's saying that these kids actually do exist. And then
I think we'll
finally,
get more
do
on
we-
the chaos magic of it all will be explained more
Yeah,
in the finale.
it just at this point it feels like they've created a world where like basically anything could happen, and it doesn't necessarily have a 1-to-1 magic to reality ratio. So like I don't know if she can make Vision out of zero, air. Like maybe she could make these two kids out of air as well. Like it definitely doesn't. I don't feel like they would introduce two kids just to have them disappear in the finale and never come up again, especially because they are from the comics. So I
Yeah.
feel like you got to figure out some way to have this continue, but I don't think there's nothing in the rules so far that says those kids have to be real or a dog can't play basketball.
I will say one thing about the comics that this show can certainly match is Wanda's powers never being really fully defined, and it kind of she can do anything is a classic thing about Wanda in the comics.
you always need someone in your group that
Right.
can get you out in a pinch if you write yourself into a corner. So and then two final points. These are the last ones. This is from Kev Rowe, and I think they're both pretty interesting. He says, or she, Dottie is a sorcerer and has been off getting Doctor Strange, so she could be the one who shows up at the sanctum and pulls him out.
Yes, that's like as close to what I think is going to happen as we've heard. Yeah, exactly.
And then
That's what
their other point is that Sword has unwittingly created the groundwork for the Sentinels with all this work and kind of building these fake visions. Is that
I love that.
that white visions are going to be the Sentinels of Phase 4, hunting down mutants.
I will say this. It did stick out to me with thinking about this show that, the MCU has invented characters, completely ground up that were never in the comics. I think two big examples of that are now Darcy and Coulson, right? But Hayward has had a lot of screen time for someone who was, going in, they conceived this whole season, and he's now a major part of the show, which if anyone has a big reveal, it feels like he might be it at this point. And whether that's I'm Mephisto or whether that's I'm a Skrull, Secret Invasion is coming, I think there's a lot of ways that could go with that, but Hayward does kind of stand out to me as like, why did they invent this character and then give him such prominence in the show? That's a little unlike them.
He does. He's not a red herring. He's got to pay off somehow. So that concludes this section of our evening or morning. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit that like, hit that bell if you haven't, and do come back for the finale chat this Friday with Roth and Eric, as they've been doing for every episode, recapping it, really expanding on the episode itself to truly Herculean lengths.
And seeing how wrong we are.
And seeing just how wrong they are. But they won't stop with WandaVision. No, they are threatening, and they will make good on this threat to keep doing this for Falcon Winter Soldier when that comes out about 2 weeks after. We will not be long without another MCU series to overanalyze. Although I do think that there could be less to chew on with this one. It might just be like a buddy cop show.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that got screwed up by them switching the order was that I think they wanted to launch with like, here's the fun action show, and now we're going to get weird, and now we're getting it in the reverse order, and I think people will be like, oh, this is just a fun action show.
Yeah.
Not so.
It's
not
still
so
fun
tricky.
to talk about fun action stuff.
Yeah,
There'll be some Zemo stuff. We'll get to do another bad Zemo plan episode if Juan's up for it.
Sure.
Yeah, you should keep a whiteboard with Zemo's plan as an
God,
I'll bet
he
there's many
should
steps.
really. I hope he focused a little on streamlining. He's had a lot of time in isolation to just think about what went wrong before, and I hope he came to the realization that it was just too complex, man. Just get a gun, Just,
I mean, it worked pretty well, all things considered. But
it almost worked amazingly, but like still, you gotta trim the fat, man. What you're requiring, like a bunch of different people to separately travel to Siberia. I don't know. Time to reconsider.
We've got a couple other news stories for you, and then we will answer some fan questions, some non-WandaVision fan questions if there's time. So let's dive into
Time permitting.
time permitting, a few bits and pieces. We got Superman and Lois has already been greenlit for season 2. A quick season 2 renewal after, I believe, was there been one, maybe 2 episodes? Oh, just one
aired,
episode.
only one aired, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't see it, but people seem to be really happy with it. Are you, Eric? Are you keeping up with the Arrowverse?
Yeah. I'm not keeping up completely with Arrowverse, but I have seen the pilot to this, and I really like this version of Superman. And I just think he's sort of the most classic Superman we got going right now. We talked about how the other day how DC sure is throwing a lot of Superman at us, but I think this is a very likable, fun version of the character, and I'm happy to enjoy more of his adventures on television.
Have you caught up with this one, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, no, I haven't watched this episode yet, and to be honest, from what I've seen, there's nothing in there that draws me to it particularly. It looks kind of insipid to me. The Arrowverse is bland. If the Arrowverse as a whole is hit and miss for me, I kind of quite enjoy some of it. But you know, what I really want to see is Henry Cavill get his due, get a good movie to do him credit, and or something with the tone of Richard Donner's Superman. That's what I want from Superman. I'm not really interested in this one.
That'd be nice. I mean, I do hear about this one. They have 2 angsty teenagers, which is a requirement to be on the CW.
Yeah, I think this is a blend, Kim. I think there are things about this show you would definitely like based on what you were just saying, and then there are things you would definitely roll your eyes at, because it is made by people that clearly have a lot of love for classic Superman, and there's some really great moments in there. And then it's a CW show, and then they have to have those.
But there's a Black Lex Luthor from outer space. That sounds cool. Allegedly
going on.
Possibly. That's what I was gonna say. Is possibly. I like this just because it's a different take. It's not the classic Superman that we're seeing over and over again, and it's not the whatever's going on with all the different movies. It's just like a different take in a different context. Like it's Superman, but he's in Smallville, but it's not young high school Superman. But we've also got the sort of familiar CW elements. Like I think it seems like it could work to me.
Speaking of different takes, according to Variety, Netflix is adapting Terminator The Anime, the series. The plot is kind of under wraps, but Netflix has partnered with Skydance, who produced the last couple Terminator films. I don't think there's been a good Terminator movie in a decade plus, but if this were to come back in anime form, do you think this is a good way for this franchise to go? And what would you like to see an animated Terminator focus on? Future stuff or another time travel movie or show, I guess?
I mean,
I'll go for it.
No, Spencer, no, I don't want any more Terminator. If obviously there's still an appetite for it, right? Because they're making an anime series, and if they have to continue in some form, then try something different like that. Okay, but what I would want from it is a complete remake of the movies, the live action movies so far. Like, you remember Gus Van Sant's Psycho shot for shot remake of the original, something like that with this anime series.
Interesting.
Stylized. I did enjoy the last Terminator movie, but I also thought it was too little too late, just because there's been so many bad to mediocre Terminator movies that that movie was fun.
It was fine.
It wasn't enough to be like, this franchise is back. My favorite Terminator thing in the past 20 years is Sarah Connor Chronicles. There's no way that's ever coming back for rights issues, but in my dream world, this anime would continue that storyline. But I do think maybe at this point, I know there was one Terminator movie that was not good, that was set all in the future, but I do think that might be a route. It feels pretty anime to do that. And it feels like that save the time travel shenanigans for the inevitable feature film that will happen again one day, because that's what they do with titles people know. So this show, I think, could maybe focus on the robot world a little more that we only got in that one movie. Salvation, that's the name of that movie. That's right.
Yeah.
I just want to see I thought that they actually covered an anime Terminator story pretty well in the Animatrix it was the first two shorts on that, the second Renaissance part 1 and part 2, where it was like the rise of the machines and exactly how it went down. And that was creepy and bloody and a pretty cool spin on it. So I guess they already did it, but I'd like to see it again. I would like to see maybe like more of an anthology, like a sweeping Terminator series, because you're not constrained by budget as much. You can show all this crazy stuff that happened and the whole world collapsing and jump around from location to location rather than just focusing on, a boy and his robot. I think that's what anime is probably the best suited for is the big epic stuff. So I'm ostensibly in. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think the thing with the movie franchise is it's so tied to Schwarzenegger. They want to keep bringing back, like Linda Hamilton and elements that we remember because it's like that nostalgia thing of like, well, that's why people want to see a Terminator movie. And so a reboot, a rethink, a different format, a whole new team, I think it's like kind of a cool opportunity to like, okay, we'll just start from scratch. You don't need to figure out a way to bring in, Schwarzenegger's Terminator. You don't need to figure out a way to like kind of redo the Terminator 2 plot that people find familiar, to shout out Kyle Reese or whatever. You could just like take a look at this world and this story organically and be like, where do we start? What's a cool story to tell? So I'm hoping they come in with that level of creativity and it's not just start at the beginning and let's do the thing again. But that probably will be that.
Yeah. Well, you guys all have fan questions. You know what? You're just going to have to sit on them because we have something else to show you. Also, basically, the best question was, what's the best item in Chex Mix? So do better, audience. But we have a Raya and the Last Dragon junket that Eric can tell us more about. I'm excited for that movie. And tell us about this junket.
Yeah. So, by the way, we're going to try to do a review this week, but I really like this movie. Is my quick review. I talked to Kelly Marie Tran and I talked to the filmmakers about this movie, and we kind of talked about the very action approach it takes. It's not a musical. You'll see one of the writers has coined a phrase for what it is instead, but it's a lot of action and kind of the way they develop that, and also the interesting approach they take with the villain, which I think is pretty different than you see in a lot of these movies. Dig the movie, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
And the answer is like the rye chip, the like little brown kind of chip that's in the Chex Mix. I think that's probably the
like
number
the
one.
Chex or no? Yeah, I don't know.
When Dango
There's the rye chip, there's the Chex, there's I believe there's like a
squiggly baguette
thing. Yeah.
We're
Anyways,
going to do another hour on that.
Yeah, next week on SJU. We'll see you guys soon. Check out this junket. Thanks for watching.
Find the last dragon. My name is Raya.
So I have to ask, is getting the phone call saying, hey, they want you to star in a big Disney animated movie as amazing as one would expect it to be?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, this experience has been as amazing as I expected to be. But getting that initial call was a rush of emotion. And immediately my first thought was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think I'd actually get this. Can I do this? Am I going to be okay? I feel like I spent so much time like wishing and hoping and wanting to be part of this world. And then once you are sort of given that key, you realize you never really thought about how you would do it or what you would do once you got there. And so I do feel really lucky that everyone I've worked with has been so welcoming in this experience and sort of guided me through the whole thing.
Kelly Marie Tran, I mean, not just a wonderful actress, but just her as a person, what she represents in the community, what she represents in our industry. She's such an aspiring figure in and of herself. So to combine her with the character that we were already developing just felt like the perfect fit. She gave Raya such soul, such humor, such complexity and nuance. It was a perfect marriage between like character and actor.
My name is Raya. Our lands have been at war for as long as we can remember. Our people never see eye to eye.
This movie has some really cool action sequences and some really great fight scenes. Was that kind of baked in from the start? Did you know that you really wanted to make that a part of this story?
It was always part of the DNA of the film. It was going to be a big, epic action-adventure film inspired by the different cultures of Southeast Asia. So I think it gave us an amazing opportunity to double down on these action scenes. Almost as if, for musicals, those musical numbers become sort of the standout scenes in a musical.
We knew that we were essentially making an action-adventure film with the hero, on our way to save the world, and we knew we'd have action. And we knew as soon as we landed on the inspiration for the film being Southeast Asian, we also knew that we would have martial arts that are grounded in the region. And I'm lucky that Adele's co-writer, Kui Wen, is also a martial arts choreographer.
Yeah, I like to refer to this as our fight-sicle, since we didn't make it a musical.
Have you ever done like a group project, but there's like that one kid who didn't pitch in as much, but still ended up with the same grade?
We're doomed.
Awkwafina, of course, has a very fun, specific energy to her. Did Sisu begin to change after she was cast, or was that kind of always the approach you wanted to take with Sisu as a character?
She had a lot of heavy lifting to do with Sisu. We're talking about, an Eastern water-based dragon, a creature that most of the world has no idea about. And, that she has this offbeat, like quirky sense of humor. She's larger than life. All of those things are Awkwafina. But underneath that, there's also a wisdom that drives that humor, that it's not just, funny for the sake of being funny. She's like a funny that sees the best in humans and is this vulnerable, warm, engaging presence. And Awkwafina really has that range and the skill to be able to bring that emotionality to Sisu when it was needed.
The cool thing about Disney animation is that it really allows for a collaboration between the filmmakers and the actors, just because it's not like a live action shoot where you have a period of shooting and then you edit it and that's your movie. This goes on for years. Like, we were working with Awkwafina for about 1.5 years. The animators who are animating the scenes, the modelers who are modeling the characters still start to see things that she does, gestures, mannerisms, the way that she speaks. Kui starts incorporating sort of like her very specific speech pattern. And then all of a sudden, you bring it back to Awkwafina and she's like, whoa, that really starts to feel and sound and act like me. And then she builds off of that. And like that, it goes on for, a long, long time. So we really created it with her.
You and the dragon are coming with me. My sword here says we're not.
Namari is such an interesting character here because she's very atypical for a villain in this type of story. As far as the dynamic goes and the bond that these characters at one point had. Was that cool for you to see that they were kind of going in a different direction than the that's the evil villain that I must stop?
I think in real life, we don't really have evil and good in a very clear, divided way. I think we have people who all believe they're trying to do good, who might just not see the world the same way, or might not have been raised in the same circumstances and just have different ways of perceiving the world. And I think that they did a really good job with that relationship between Raya and Namari, and recognizing that they both really decided what type of person the other person was a long time ago. And then to see them again years later and recognize that they're now starting to doubt those biases. I think it's a really, really cool dynamic, and hopefully makes people start to ask questions about their own biases against certain people.
It may feel impossible, but sometimes you just have to take the first step.